Nicolas Cage is probably one of our generation's definitive actors.
Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Hope everyone's doing well in the world.
Hi everybody, Matt Guy there. Hope everybody is splendid as always.
You'll all be splendid as always in the next hour of high quality entertainment, and this is one not to be missed.
You're really excited by this, aren't you, Stu?
I'm genuinely stunned at the excitement. I mean, honestly, I don't know how to take a screenshot on this thing, but I wish I could see the look on your face. It's
a kid at Christmas.
It really is. So we're here to discuss Primal. Going into this movie, literally all I knew that it was a 2019 Cage movie. And from this year, we've seen Grand Isle, Kill Chain, and Colour Out of Space. We've also got Running with the Devil and A Score to Settle to watch. So there's two more from this. So from this year alone, he's done 6. Like, this is almost Bruce Willis 2021 levels. So knowing what we've seen, Matt, what are you expecting from this movie?
I had expectations that, not knowing much about it, that it was going to be okay, because in my head, this era of Cage is Willy's Wonderland, is Pig, is, Colour Out of Space, Mandy. He didn't particularly like it, but other people did. I had it in my head that actually it's to be enjoyed, and then when you compare it to, I really liked Grand Isle, and Kill Chain not so much, but it wasn't the worst film we've ever seen.
And so it wasn't because of Cage that it was bad.
Yeah, exactly.
He was like the highlight of it, wasn't he?
So I was expecting it to be all right, to be fair.
Stu, this is the period of time, like Matt's just said. It's the renaissance, the green shoots of rejuvenation in Cage's career. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like we said, we were all kind of taken aback with Colour Out of Space. He kind of shocked us all. He came from nowhere, really, especially because no one was talking about it as well. And then you had this, which, I mean, knowing that it was one of these going into it, I mean, I think kind of heightened the fact that I knew what to expect, kind of thing. But at the same time, going into it knowing that Cage had been on top form in the same year, so it was one where going into it was like, oh, I can't wait to do this.
Yeah, same. So Primal is directed by Nick Powell, who is mostly known as a stunt coordinator, but he's got 2 directorial credits to his name. This one and Outcast, which also stars Nicolas Cage, alongside Hayden Christensen. Both films have less than a 5 out of 10 rating on IMDb. Make of that what you will. Obviously, alongside Nick Cage here, we've got Kevin Durant. Like, he's not a famous name, but it's a face that you probably recognise from at least several things. He was in the Swamp Thing TV series, The Strain, Wolverine Origins, Little John in Robin Hood, Legion. He's always a decent supporting actor from my experience with the guy. Yeah,
I knew him from The Strain. He was fucking class in that as well. Because he's got this kind of... He plays a proper New York kind of over-the-top accented... pest control guy as well. So I knew that he had that kind of that range, so to speak. So I mean, and then we haven't mentioned it. Famke Janssen next up, obviously superb in most things. Until this,
Famke Janssen from like the original X-Men trilogy. She was Jean Grey, GoldenEye, House on Haunted Hill. Another solid supporting co-star, I find, in pretty much everything.
Nip Tuck as well.
Yeah, she was great in Nip Tuck. And The Blacklist. I think I stopped watching shortly after she left because it went a bit off the rails, but she was great in it.
I forgot about Blacklist. I used to love that back in the day.
Yeah, I loved it for the first like 3 seasons, and then I think I quit after season 6 because it it got to the lost point of asking more questions without giving us any answers.
I just realised that she isn't the fit lawyer out of Scrubs.
No, that's Julia Margulies, who looks scarily like her.
Yeah,
Julia
all the way.
Margulies, who was in ER.
Yeah, yeah, that's upsetting.
Not to be confused with Mario Margulies.
No, that's someone very, very different. So IMDb describes this film as a big game hunter for zoos has booked passage on a Latin American shipping freighter with a fresh haul of exotic, deadly animals from the Amazon, including a rare white jaguar. Along with a political assassin being extradited to the US in secret. 2 days into the journey, the assassin escapes and releases the captive animals, throwing the ship into chaos.
Take it easy with my cat!
What is it?
White jag, maybe 400 pounds. I have hit the mother load. Put it mother load. I think this one's going to the highest bidder.
So nice to see American faces.
Marine Commando under arrest for crimes against humanity.
Seizures can happen without warning. My radio will be on 24 hours.
Dr. Taylor.
The man that we're looking for is a mercenary assassin, a professional killer. Loeffler let most of the animals out. There's only so many places he can hide. Who says he's gonna hide? I'm going hunting.
Government wants him alive.
If you see Loeffler, put a bullet in him. And the same goes for the cat. You kill my cat, I'll blow your head off. Got a real nice cage for you. Rated R.
We open to Frank Walsh sat on a small wooden ledge within the deepest Brazilian rainforest, awaiting something. Frank senses a movement. He goes to grab his gun and somehow manages to knock it off the ledge onto the ground. We cut to the eyes of the beast, crawling through the undergrowth, heading towards Frank's trap. Crawling into the open, Frank spies the creature. Absolutely gorgeous, he proclaims. The camera shows a white jaguar. The fucking state of your CGI jaguar, mate. This is 2019, and this is Reptile from Mortal Kombat 2 levels of awful, this CG.
Yeah, it's really atrocious, isn't it? There's no redeeming features for it at all because it doesn't even move like a big cat.
No.
It looks like some kind of hybrid monster. And it just takes you out of the film altogether straight away, doesn't it? Like,
It really does, yeah.
I mean, you could have had a person in a cat suit, and it would have been better than this.
Yeah, you don't even need Andy Serkis. Just pick some random dude off the street and stick him in like one of those cheap charity suits that they get. That would have been perfectly acceptable compared to what we got.
Remember when Primark was selling like onesies for like 10 quid?
Yeah, that would have done. That would have done. Frank manages to capture the jaguar. When they try to export him, the locals will not help him. They believe the jaguar is haunted. The locals say, "Whoa, here she comes. She's a man-eater." A parrot comes. A parrot comes and eats Frank's food. So he walks over to the parrot and we get some crazy Cage as he screams into the parrot's face. The parrot just dead eyes him and carries on eating the food like he doesn't give a fuck. I loved this scene when Frank got back to the truck and all the locals are stood around. Because I assume they just got locals to be extras in this film, to be supporting artists. But they're all just stood stock still, staring at the camera, not even at the truck. It's terrible. Frank had hired a place on a cargo boat to smuggle the animal back to the US. Whilst boarding, a group of military guys rock up in big sedans and fancy blacked out cars, all for one prisoner, Richard Loeffler, played by Kevin Durant. being imprisoned for crimes against humanity in several made-up South American countries. Naval Officer Dr. Ellen Taylor, Frankie Janssen, is here to ensure safe passage. We usually do wig watch on Cage, but Janssen looks like they've just taken Chucky's fucking hair off, dyed it black, and stuck it on her head. That's the worst wig we've seen in any of these films. It was awful.
Yeah, he's atrocious, and her whole demeanour or lack of demeanour the whole way through is a shock. You wouldn't know it was a shock because she's so stoic throughout. You can't have to tell what emotion it is that she's portraying for a lot of this.
I think the amount of polyfiller in her face kind of limits the emotion that she could possibly portray.
Yeah.
Looking at this, I mean, she looks a state. let's be honest. She looks a mess, and from the glories of the Nip Tuck days, it's a shame what people, especially women like her, do not need to do this to themselves, and she can't move her face. The CG Jaguar thing has more emotion than she does.
That's true.
You are right. I mean, it's the Hollywood machine, isn't it? She's in that age between being young and hot and being old enough to be a mother, because you've got to be 60 to be a mother in Hollywood. She's in that in-between age where she's just got to try and hang on to her youth. And like, I have no issue with people having plastic surgery, but when it's got to the point it's affecting your performance, that's a real bad sign. And as we've said earlier, like, she's usually a solid actor, but no, not here. She really wasn't. Taylor locks Loeffler, that's a fucking sentence, in an 8x8 foot cage. They are laying the symbolism on pretty thick straight away. We've got a human killer in a cage, and we've got a killer jaguar also in a cage. It's a bit much. We get a bit of talky stuff where Frank just gets hammered explaining that he's a hunter and that he's selling the jaguar. I'm not sure if Frank is getting hammered or if Cage is actually getting hammered. And I wouldn't blame him, because this script does not really deserve any respect. Just get pissed and enjoy yourself, son. So that's half an hour in. What do we think, Stu?
I giggled so much. I wasn't even remotely tipsy or drunk of any kind. I was just, after seeing the Jaguar, I thought, well, I'll text Dean a picture of him in his treehouse, and he just put Primal lol. And then it appeared, and I thought, oh no, this is why he's wanted us to do this for so long, because it's going to be so awful. And it doesn't disappoint, does it? Because it is really shit. But it's kind of done. It's played so straight faced that I don't know if they know that it's bad, or if they're just, or they kind of get along with a gag, because there's no way that this could be serious. No way at all. I fail to believe that it's possible. Because why would you spend almost no money at all on effects for the main kind of antagonist of the whole film, the animals, which we get onto the monkeys again later on. If the CG was better, would it change the film? Because I was thinking, as soon as I saw that monstrosity, I thought, well, this is shit then. This is one of these films. This is like a kind of, this is like the Snakes on a Train kind of rip-off.
Yeah. I'd put in the group chat that clip from Birdemic. It is almost that level of terrible. And I think you make a good point. I think if it was a really realistic looking Jaguar, the film would just be shit. But because the Jaguar looks terrible, and it makes you immediately think, oh, actually, this is going to be B-movie level bollocks. So you're just in for the ride at that point. So I think it being awful probably helps you get over that hurdle. Matt, first 30 minutes, are you enthralled?
I can't say I was bored. I mean, one of my first notes was arsehole Cage, no matter what film he's in, he's always giving you some form of entertainment. I stand by that in this. I agree with Stu though. I think from the off you can tell that some of the things that are in this movie are done to be ramping up the shit factor and B moviness of it. There are some like really throwaway lines or some really odd performances by some of the characters that are so bad it's like the upcoming Foo Fighters film, like the trailer, in that it's so over the top for show and performance, like the chef who gets mauled in a short while, or like one of the deckhands or the engineer or something who's served in Nam or wherever it was. Like the performances are so bad that they can only be by design.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah,
but I was enjoying it. To be fair, I can't lie. I was thinking actually this is I'm not bored. I'm looking forward to seeing, because he's the film's biggest strength is that it steals all the good things from other films and just mashes it into one hodgepodge.
Loeffler fakes a seizure. When one of the guards tries to prise his jaws open, Loeffler bites his fucking fingers off. And rather than shooting him, the second guard comes in and then basically gives Loeffler the gun. Needless to say, Loeffler escapes with ease because these naval seals are fucking idiots. The US Marshals manage to take control of the ship in order to search for the guy, forcing everyone into their rooms whilst they're searching around. Frank is unhappy as he needs to feed his animals. Whilst the Marshals are searching for Loeffler, they notice that Loeffler has released some of Frank's animals. During the melee of all the animals, Frank manages to escape, and we find out that he served in the military many years ago. I'm not entirely sure if Frank is supposed to be hunting the animals which have been released, or if he's looking for the escaped mercenary. They don't really make it that clear what he's doing. He's just out there now looking for everybody and nobody, maybe? I don't know. I don't feel like they told the story very well at this point.
I just presume that he was out to go and find Loeffler, and if he came across his animals, then he'd deal with them as and when.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose that makes no sense, but all the sense in this film. Frank sees his white Jaguar, but before he manages to tranquilise him, the Jag runs off. Frank chases after him, but he's obviously too slow because it's a Jaguar. Is it just me, or does Cage look in the worst shape of his career in this film? He looks really doughy, and we're not used to that.
For someone that waits a week stalking his prey and hunts, like, unless that prey is at a Pizza Hut buffet, like he's like, I'm not sure how like the two are like mutually connected.
A snake manages to bite one dude, and then the Jag attacks another of the Marshals, ripping his neck open. Frank has sobered up quite quickly at this point, and he shows us all that he's actually a bad guy. He doesn't give a shit about the guy dying from the snake bite. He's only there to protect his animals, he says. There's a bit more of a cat and mouse shenanigans going on. Eventually, Frank and Loeffler come face to face. Their face-off becomes a Mexican standoff when the strange rando kid appears, and then the white Jag comes into the room. Loeffler manages to escape in all of the goings-on. Then a minute later, Loeffler captures Frank and kills some birds until he gets the chart which Frank stole from him. It's a little bit all over the place at this. We seem to be jumping from one person to the next person and back again, and there's not a lot of continuity, I don't think, going through it. I got a little bit bored in this part of it, to be perfectly honest, because we're following one protagonist and then the antagonist, and then out of nowhere, this other side would show up. There's very little interaction going on between anyone. Then they would run off and then rinse and repeat. Throughout this whole section of the film, it was just one person, here's the other person, run away, and then reverse it for the next scene.
It was kind of at this point where the stone had been bled dry of all of the kind of like the goodwill had been spent of what was actually like a really potentially fun and original kind of, well, not original story because it's Face Off meets Jumanji, but it's sorry, Con Air meets Jumanji, but it's essentially it was starting to wear thin because this just became just then another shit action film that is, it could be anybody playing anybody. There was nothing distinguishing it from anything else that you'd find in a £1 DVD bin in Spa.
It reminded me. Do you remember the old computer game Spy versus Spy, where you would run around a house to try and set up traps to capture the other spy? It felt like that. Like you had Cage and Durand trying to do that to each other. That was all that was going on for ages, which is fine if you're playing a 5-minute game, but when you're 60 minutes into an 100-minute film, it's a bit of a drag. Somehow Loeffler ends up taking the weird kid who happens to be on the boat with a bunch of grown men, so that Frank and Dr. Taylor try and get him back. Eventually Dr. Taylor gets taken too. Loeffler ties her up and the kid releases some of the venomous snakes. I'm not sure where they got this bag of snakes from, because they were roaming the ship on their own. So did he just grab a bag and then put them in there himself? Strange. Eventually he manages to come face to face with Frank, who is also sniping him with poison blow darts. After a scuffle with knives, poison eventually slows Loeffler down, trapping in a snare trap. Then Cage releases the Jaguar on Loeffler, killing him. The end, pretty much. So the budget on this is a bit weird. So I found an article on newsismybusiness.com where a Puerto Rican governor claimed that Primal had a budget of $31 million. There's absolutely no way on earth that they spent $31 million on this film. IMDb has estimated it at $9 million. I'm more inclined to believe IMDb on this, I think. Because, I mean, if they spent money, they didn't spend it on screen, let's be perfectly honest. But just for context, 2019, Colour Out of Space, the budget there was estimated between 6 and 12 million. So we're looking at a similar kind of budget. But you look at what Colour Out of Space did with that budget compared to what they've done with the budget here. It's fucking worlds apart, isn't it? At the box office, so it was released on the 8th of November 2019. It made $2.3 million worldwide. The international market, it made $40,000. It was straight to DVD in the US, and it made a little bit over $2.25 million. So it was nowhere near making its money back. 2019 big hitters. So we've got Endgame, Lion King, Frozen 2, Spider-Man Far From Home, Captain Marvel, Joker, Star Wars Episode 9, Aladdin, Toy Story 4, Jumanji, The Next Level. Not a single original film in that top 10. All of those films are either sequels or pre-existing IPs. Even if I expand it out into the top 20, there are 4 films which are Chinese releases, so I don't know anything about them. The other films, Hobbs and Shaw, How to Train Your Dragon 3, Maleficent 2, It 2, Detective Pikachu, Secret Life of Pets 2. 16 out of 20 films, all pre-existing IP. Even if I went up to 30, there's still only 8 films that were original, which is quite a damning indictment of the industry that they don't really make in original ideas. But then again, I suppose when Primal is an original idea.
This is why we can't have nice things.
Yeah, absolutely. So before I give you the scores, I want you to tell me what you think it'll be, either out of 10 or out of 100. Matt?
Critic 3 out of 10. Fan 5 to 6 out of 10.
Stu?
2 and 4.
So IMDb, it's got a 4.9. The Rotten Tomatoes critical score is a 37%, which I've got to admit is a little bit higher than I was expecting. But the Rotten Tomatoes audience score is 22%.
Ooh.
I'm really quite shocked it's that low. So that's like 1 in 5. So, yeah. So the critical response, Howard Gorman from The Enemy Stuffed with unintentional laugh out loud moments, Primal is as fun as long as you don't take it too seriously. Alex Bean from Stuff, a B grade blast. Just to be clear, it's a bad movie, but Nicolas Cage is mesmerising. Brandon Collins from Medium Popcorn, would have rated higher if the production and effects were better. The premise is wild. Nicolas Cage is really entertaining. Trace Thurman from Horror Queers. Don't promise me Nick Cage versus a jaguar on a boat and then fill the run time with human on human fighting. And finally, Rotten Tomatoes itself, I think, sums it up quite perfectly. Chiefly of interest to Nicolas Cage completionists and hardcore B-movie fans, this action thriller suffers from an unfortunate lack of primal energy. I think that really does sum it up, doesn't it? However, some people did like this film, and those maniacs at Amazon.com gave this 4 stars out of 5 after 1,968 reviews.
Wow.
Yeah. RJC says, it starts off a bit lame, and I thought it was going to be another Nick Cage dud. The testosterone stuff at the beginning is a bit naff, and it did put me off, but it gets better as the characters begin to take shape, and Mr. Cage comes through and shows his acting skills. It becomes an enjoyable film to watch and worth watching again. 4 stars, that one. Jameson the 7th gave it a 4-star review saying the CGI needed a bit of work, but still worth a watch. And one unknown reviewer said, not bad at all, 5 stars. Yeah. So the good, the bad, and the crazy. Stu?
Well, let's just get it. The bad was the CG, obviously, because it influenced the whole film because of how shit it was.
Mm.
Well, like I said earlier, it was as soon as you sort of one of the main characters of the entire film looks awful and looks like it could have been ripped straight from Jumanji, the first one, then you know what you're going to get. And it's probably right if it did look good and if it did look better, like Life of Pi kind of standard, it could have fundamentally changed the whole thing. I mean, it would have made it a good film, obviously, but it might have made it this kind of weird kind of. I'd say more realistic, but it could have put a more respect towards the film more than anything else. That they clearly couldn't care less. It's clearly a piss take from start to finish. But in saying that, it was fun for that reason. But I think it would have still been that if the CG was better. And it just every time you saw one of the animals on screen, it just took me out of it completely because I thought, well, it just looks shit. And the good was Cage's performance because I think it was one of these where he obviously was having a great old time, despite the nonsense of it all. I mean, no one else was, of course, but I mean, he seemed to be. I mean, this could have been one of them where he has just turned up for a week in his own clothes. In between films where he's not had to work out or get in shape for anything like we've already discussed earlier on, and just had a bit of a laugh, and that kind of comes across, and
yeah,
that's why he enjoyed it, because I mean I had a smile on my face apart from the 10 minutes in the middle. I had a smile on my face for the whole time.
Matt, what have you got to say?
So the good, I think there was some strangely. The foreboding of some of the elements were done really well, I thought. So, like, they just slide it into conversation about, like, oh, the monkey's protecting its young. And that's fine. That's why she's being so aggressive. And then the bloke goes in there with the monkeys, and then you see the baby just before he says, is there a baby in there? And you go, oh, I know what's about to happen now. And then it will be like, he'll say, like, oh, no, a jaguar is not a man-eater. It's only a blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, yeah, he's definitely going to eat somebody. And it's like, they just dropped these, but it was very much with a wink at the camera kind of thing about it. and I like that. If I'm honest, I found some of that quite entertaining. It was so like nudge nudge wink wink here we go kind of thing about it that it just made it quite fun. The bad for me really was just whilst they obviously I think like I said tried to take everything with a pinch of salt and it be fun. When it stops becoming the animal romp and it just becomes a human on human interaction, well, we've seen that all before on bigger budgets, and it's just done way better than this. Way better than this. So when it becomes just like a human on human fight, even the turn from the FBI agent or whatever he is, NSA agent, whatever, basically the guy from The Sopranos, then that's not even like that shocking or anything. When it becomes just a human on human story, it's pretty boring, and that's a bit sad, really. The crazy for me is the fact that we've got this stunt coordinator director, and then everything from a fight scene is so tame. Like
really poor,
no
isn't it?
risks are taken, really. It's just, and like maybe this is because Cage is in really poor shape, as we've mentioned already, but like the fight scenes were pretty terrible in general, which was a shame because you think with somebody with that experience that they would really go balls to the wall and make it like just stick a random bit of bullet time in there just for no reason. Do you know what I mean? Just like something just completely out of the ordinary. We got none of it really. It was quite vanilla.
So for me, the good was that the film was basically greater than the sum of its parts. The bad is the parts, unfortunately. Like, the CG cat was terrible. I mean, not just the cat, but all of the CG animals were absolutely abysmal. We have seen films with modest budgets do a lot better. $9 million is a decent budget for a film of this size. They're not going to have spent a shit ton on the 3 stars, to be perfectly honest. So I'm guessing the cocaine bill must have been sky fucking high on this movie. The cast, they all looked in awful shape. Cage, we've never seen him look quite this bad before. Durant looked like he just had a big meal and he was suffering with meat sweats through most of this movie. And Janssen, as we'd mentioned before, like she constantly looked pained in this movie. She was slightly yellow as well. I think she had jaundice. There was something wrong. Like they all just looked so out of place, and none of them looked like they should have really been there. The sets all looked fake as shit as well. They were terrible. That random boy who kept popping up, like just because his dad was there, but his dad was at work, so why was his son there? It was weird. The crazy though, producer Dan Grodnick, he optioned this script back in 1995. This script took 24 years in the making. You'd think, as he's been around for that long, they would have come out with something a little bit better.
You know, it all makes a lot more sense now because it feels very 90s.
It does, doesn't it? It really does. So, did you enjoy the film, Matt?
Yeah, I'd say I did for the most part. But I think this was very much I was warned. I was warned ahead of time. If I'd have gone into this completely fresh and then saw it, I think I'd have been like, oh my God, this is absolutely abysmal. But I knew that to expect tongue-in-cheek from pretty much the off. And it gave me that, to be fair. So yeah, I did enjoy it. I wouldn't go out of my way to like scream from the rooftops about it. But yeah, I enjoyed it for the most part.
Stu?
Of course. But again, kind of like Matt said, a lot in a very similar reasons because I knew what I was getting into, and within 5 minutes, you knew not to take it seriously. So if it was going to be another next incident, then that was never going to happen with this because it was nonsense from the start. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyable nonsense all the same. But yeah, for that reason, yeah, of course I did.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. I think on the balance, I enjoyed it. It's about 20 minutes too long. It's like the middle bit does sag like fuck. I couldn't recommend it to anybody. Like I would never tell anyone to watch this film, but I wouldn't say to not watch it if it was on. I think that's about as good as you can expect for something of this caliber.
Yeah, it screams Channel 5 on a Sunday.
Oh, not even 5. It's 5-star level. It's yeah. So based on this film and this film alone, was Cage good or was Cage bad? Stu?
He probably was, because he was he was nowhere near the worst part about this film, and
No.
he kind of it was Crazy Cage when it needed to be and more at points. I mean, you don't really see him being a complete arsehole that often from start to finish, and he kind of was in this, other than his animals. So yeah, he was.
Matt, are you in agreement?
I am, but I'm shocked that there are much better films than this that hasn't had the yes in both questions. Is Nick Cage good and is this a good film? But yeah, I think he was good because, like, he gave enough of a performance that you knew he was an arsehole. You knew his character was an arsehole. You knew his character could go off the rails a little bit when needed to be, and he delivered these throwaway cheesy 90s lines like he's already dead, like that kind of stuff. Like he delivered them with the kind of like stupidness that you need for like an almost 90s kind of film. So yeah, I think he probably was good in it.
Yeah, I agree. I think he held the film together. Like, the only other person I could imagine in that sort of role would be someone like Christian Slater. Do you know what I mean? Someone who's got that little bit of crazy about them, who's very 90s as well. I think Christian Slater, I don't think he would have been anywhere near as good as Cage. I think Cage held the film together. He was watchable. He was interesting. Like Stu said, we got to see that arsehole side of him, which was fun to see. And we had that bit of the Crazy Cage when we needed it. It wasn't 24/7 Crazy Cage. It was, he picked and chose his moments well, I think. So, yeah, it's 2 yeses from me, surprisingly, on this one.
Christian Slater, have you seen Mr. Robot?
I watched like all of the first series apart from the last episode. I figured it out before it got to the end, and I'm not watching this.
Yeah, like how he doesn't seem to have changed that much at all.
Looks exactly the same, doesn't it?
Just with a beard.
You've seen it, haven't you, Matt? You've seen all of it.
I did. I loved it like throughout, and I remember like in the early stages of our blossoming friendship, we would talk about Mr. Robot quite a lot, and I really enjoyed it throughout. To be fair, until the ending, which was fine. It wasn't the worst in the world, but I did feel a little cheated. But I enjoyed it for the most part, yeah.
Now, I remember saying to someone, it's got a proper Fight Club vibe to it. And then the look on their face, I was like, he's not real, is he? And I just knew from that moment I'm never going to finish that series. So I didn't. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So finish the sentence. If you enjoyed Primal, you might also like. Stu?
Under Siege?
Of course.
It's a terrorist and an ex-Navy SEAL on a boat fighting each other properly under siege. And Steven Seagal in the 90s, of course. What this film is begging to be.
Yeah, it is. Matt?
For no reason other than if you want to have animals involved in some form of 90s cheesy but also shit film, then you need to watch Deep Blue Sea.
How dare you?
Oh, it's bad. It is bad.
It's terrible, isn't it? Let's be completely honest. Jaws, it is not. But it redeems itself by being so shit. Much of some of the redeeming qualities of this.
We should do. I think there's the trilogy of Deep Blue Seas. We should do them.
Yeah, one came out in 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to get them done at some point, I think. Maybe do it over Halloween. I saw that on Halloween, like, is it 2000, was it, that was released? So I think it might be the first time I ever saw 2 films at the cinema in one day. I went to see Deep Blue Sea, came out, then went in to see Blair Witch. I felt so sick at the end of Blair Witch because of my
99
thing. So it was the 99 Halloween that I went to see it. And I remember I had to walk past this open wooded area on my way back home. And like I was bricking myself because I'd just watched Blair Witch. And so I thought, I'm going to call my mum. I'm going to let her know I'm round the corner because she needed to open up for me anyway because I didn't have my keys with me. And I was like 16. So I called my mum. My phone wouldn't work. I'm like, I'm next to these woods. I can't call anyone. And it turns out it was just because it was when you had to top up. And at midnight on the 31st of October, my credit had run out. That was the only reason. I was thinking I was going to get fucking murdered. And it just turned out that it was like a minute past midnight. So I wasn't impressed.
Deep Blue Sea was my first DVD.
I think it was mine in a 3-pack. I had it.
It was at the the cardboard case with the plastic on the side.
Yeah. I had it with
Three Kings
and Matrix, and it was like the blockbuster pack or something like that. It was just a really odd trio of films to put together. So for me, the film I'm going to recommend, I'm going to go with another B movie, also starring Nicolas Cage, but it's one where he's hunted rather than the hunter, and it's Willy's Wonderland. Love that film. I mean, obviously, we spoke about it when it came out, so it's available in the back catalogue. It's just a really fun, silly film, and I think Primal could have been improved had it have leaned a little bit more into the absurdity. In that middle 20-minute chunk, I think if they went a little bit dafter, it could have been something really, really fun, other than just something that was passable. So that's another Nick Cage film in the record books. Please get in contact if you've seen this one, and it's cagefightingpod@gmail.com on emails and at cagefightingpod on the Twitter and Insta. Please make sure that you're subscribed as well. And make sure that you check out the latest episode of Video Nasty Andy, which dropped last week, where I look at The Last House on the Left. So finally, once again, thank you for listening. We truly appreciate your time, and please tell a friend. We would love you forever if you did. So for this week, Matt, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy, everybody. Hope you are staying safe in the world and look after yourselves.
Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
Take it easy with my cat, Kurt Zuber. Goodbye.
It's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.